Why did Giannis run into the Pacers locker room after dropping a franchise record 64 points? And should a player who's averaging 30, 10, and 5 with a steal and a block shooting over 60% from the field be in the running for the MVP? Today, let's answer those questions and find out what happened on this historic night and how it turned sour so quickly. The revenge season for Giannis and the Bucks continues, as a 140-126 victory over Indiana improves their record to 17-7 for the second seed in the Eastern Conference. Giannis had 26 fourth quarter points to lead Milwaukee to a comfortable win as he dominated in the painted area, while the Pacers were also not able to keep him from the free throw stripe as Giannis attempted 32 free throws on the game, connecting on 24 of them. Coming into the game, we knew this was going to be a hard-fought and heated battle. After Tyrese Haliburton mocked Dame Lillard at the end of the last encounter only a week prior. Lillard in the post-game interview wasn't mad about what Haliburton did, but he did let him know that it was important to be humble when you're having your moment, because you'll never know when the tables will turn. Fast forward a week later, the Pacers were now in Milwaukee to a sold-out crowd. From the start, Giannis was getting to his spots, starting the game with a great jump step into an extended finish over the shot blocker Myles Turner. Then the next play, he forces Haliburton into a turnover, then runs the floor for an easy 2. Only 4 minutes into the game, we received their first signs of chippiness. Haliburton made a corner 3 right in front of the Bucks bench and then stares them down, as the Pacers took an early 14-6 lead. Then posterizes the rookie Andre Jackson Jr. and has more words for the Bucks bench. Haliburton continues to talk, and Giannis was clearly bothered by all of this, as he inadvertently knocked him to the ground. Then Milwaukee goes on a 28-17 run, capped off by a Giannis fast break dunk to get the crowd fired up, as Giannis appears to clap back at the Pacers bench. After a relatively quiet first quarter from Tyrese, he found his stroke in the second, connecting on mid-range floaters, keeping Indiana in the game. Then to end the half, Haliburton makes a tough N1 and talks to the bench again. Then at the halftime buzzer, still leads to a Buddy Hield triple to cut the deficit to only 6 points. Bad defense early in the third quarter from Milwaukee sees Indiana right back into the game. Then Brook Lopez finds Dame Lillard, who buries a triple, becoming 5th in all-time three-pointers made. However, there'd be more history to be made before the night was over. Giannis continued to dominate with an N1 and an alley-oop, but then it happens. Early in the fourth quarter, Pacers forward Aaron Nesmith puts a hard foul on Giannis, and Bobby Portis takes umbrage, as the pair would receive a double technical foul. After the incident, the tension of the game would never cool down. After the stoppage in play, Chris Middleton drew an N1 against Obi Toppin, as Milwaukee was in control of the game. Then it was the MVP Giannis who picks the pocket of Myles Turner for a fast break 2. Then a Brook Lopez block leads to a Giannis N1 over Nesmith as he extracted his revenge. In between all of this, Bobby Portis would be ejected for what I thought was probably not fair, as it was one of the weakest technical fouls I've seen this season, and I've seen plenty. With Milwaukee leading 102-120, Giannis takes a spin move for 50 points, which should have been it, but it definitely wasn't. Indiana appears to wave the white flag early with 5 minutes still remaining. Milwaukee keeps its starters in for 2 more minutes, as Giannis breaks the Bucks' all-time scoring record at the free throw line. With a minute 24 remaining and Giannis on 58 points, the Bucks sub the starters out with a lead of 19 points. But when the Bucks bench is dominated by the Pacers, Milwaukee has to sub the starters back in with only a 10-point game with 2 minutes left. Giannis makes a layup for 60 points and then leads the Bucks home, throwing down a monstrous dunk, finishing the game with 64, 14, and 3 with 4 steals, shooting nearly 70% from the field. After you have a record-breaking game like this, you should be allowed to take the game ball home, right? Giannis asked an assistant coach on the Pacers staff who had the game ball in his hand if he could have it. Once he says no, tempers flared as Middleton and Haliburton got involved. The assistant coach then proceeded to walk down into the locker room with the ball, ignoring Giannis's request, and he was not having it. Giannis sprinted after him and things quickly got heated. It was uncertain what took place in the Pacers locker room, but a few minutes later Giannis emerged, but without the game ball. He called out to Tyrese Haliburton and the other assistant head coach and gives them a passionate speech demanding that he gets the game ball. Bleacher Report's Chris Haynes reported that the Pacers took the game ball to give to one of the rookies who scored their first basket. Personally, this is a terrible excuse from the Pacers, as it was clear that they were definitely just incredibly salty for losing this game. And even if this was true, personally, a first bucket over the kind of performance that Giannis had is not even close to who should get the game ball, as they were able to get the game ball back for Giannis, as this may have been one of the most wildest moments we've seen in the season so far. With it being the best game of his career in his best season yet, Giannis is in MVP mode right now. If his averages hold up, he'll be the first player in NBA history to put up 30, 10, and 5 with a shooting percentage of 60%. With this history about to be made, you'd think he'd be the favorite, right? Wrong, as the MVP voters still have Giannis outside of the top 5. Giannis ranks below guys like Tyrese Haliburton, Joel Embiid, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as it's insane to me how Giannis has been the face of the league for years now, and this is what he gets in return. The blatant disrespect from other players and the league itself is appalling. Giannis could and should also be receiving votes for Defensive Player of the Year, as he's averaging over a steal and a block per game. Now let's break down why Giannis should be the MVP favorite right now. First, why he should be above Tyrese Haliburton. What Giannis provides on the offensive side of the floor is roughly the same level of what Halliburton provides. But Giannis's ability to get to the free throw line at will is another enough for me. While Giannis' defense is far above anybody else in the MVP conversation. Next in the rankings is Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, and Joel Embiid. Not only do the Bucks have a better record than all of these teams, but the defense that Giannis provides is simply underappreciated. As good as OKC have been this season, there's no way that Shai should be above Giannis, let alone multiple spots. Nikola Jokic is having one of the worst stretches of his career, as the Nuggets continue to struggle whenever Jamal Murray isn't in the lineup. And the 13-9 Pacers shouldn't have a guy in the conversation at all. The only guy who's above Giannis and I don't mind too much is Joel Embiid, who has carried his 76ers to a 16-7 record, putting up 33.8 points, 11.4 rebounds, 6.3 assists with a steal, and nearly averaging 2 blocks, shooting 52% from the floor. The improved playmaking from Embiid finally puts him on par with Giannis for me. Antetokounmpo has a chance to win the Defensive Player of the Year and the MVP in the same season for the second time in his career, which would put him in a class of his own. Should Giannis be in the MVP conversation? And do you think that the disrespect has gone too far? I look forward to hearing from you in the comments below.